Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Nothing Zilch Nada. We're your hosts, Xavier Dean
and Jacob Green.
And today it's Jake's topic, so Jake, what are we discussing?
Well, today on this beautiful day at Marilla Park, I decided, I have a couple topics floating about. Some of them I think could be saved for another day, but I decided that for today, both of us are a big fan of Ben 10, as we've shown in our Ben 10 tier list and probably some offhand episodes.
Which, by the way, Ben 10 tier list happens to be our most viewed, tied for our most viewed. Don't worry, those are walnuts. Those are not gunshots. I feel like I have to specify that.
Yeah.
No, we're underneath a pavilion that's right under a tree that has walnuts on it. So as the walnuts keep falling, you're going to hear more of those. We're not that cool.
Yeah. So there are many aspects to the show Ben 10 that we love, from the characters to the aliens to all the different worlds traversed, the time travel and parallel worlds, a whole bunch of different stuff. But, of course, much like in the case of Pokemon, where the thing that ties everything together is the Pokemon themselves, the thing that ties everything for Ben 10 together is the device itself, the Omnitrix, which, back in the original show, allowed Ben to transform into 10 different aliens. But over time, the number went up to like 20, 30, I think it went up to like 53 or something.
No, it went up to 10,000.
Did we see all 10,000 aliens, though?
No, we didn't see all 10,000 aliens.
And technically speaking, the Omnitrix sample has 1,000,003 different samples.
Well, then.
So the 10,000 is kind of bullshit if you think about it.
Oh, that might have been. Nope, that's still a walnut. Again, we're not that cool. If there was an actual thing, we'd be running.
Yeah, but no, I decided that for today, it's like, what instead of Ben receiving the Omnitrix, what if one of us received the device? Now, I wanted to make things a little bit interesting because it's super easy to go, okay, let's get an Omnitrix and let's pick whatever aliens we want. Those are our favorites. But we're going to do something a little bit different today to make things interesting. So each of us has like an Omnitrix, which we can only pick from 10 different aliens. The aliens is a quotation because I'll explain that in a bit. But we are not allowed to pick anything from the Ben 10 series that we could transform into because it makes things a little bit more interesting. Because, so the rule set when it comes to the Omnitrix, the most important rule set is a transformation is viable just as long as it has DNA. And it's like the prime version of that DNA. That's the number one thing. But number two is we could pick from any other franchise that we want. So we could pick something from Marvel, pick something from Pokemon or Nintendo or DC, any of those. And just to pick from one of each like franchise or mythology or whatever we decide. It doesn't have to be like a name brand franchise thing, as you'll see. It could be from books.
It could be from a poem.
Now I'm interested about that, but the other rule set that I did, again, to make things a little bit more interesting, and this was the hardest rule set because this made things really hard to pick different transformations, is no human or humanoid transformations.
Okay, could you please elaborate with the humanoid part?
Okay, so...
Because the way I depicted it was if they look human and could pass for human.
Pretty much. So, basically, no Superman, no Invincible, no
No Viltrumites, no Kryptonians,
yeah,
no Time Lords.
yeah, no,
Screw you for that one.
yeah, none of the Marvel or DC characters that have superpowers, unfortunately. Again, it made things harder, but I think it made things kind of interesting, at least in my end. Um,
Yep.
so, and then just so that way we didn't pick the same type of creatures, I designated like 10 different spots for 10 different categories.
All right. So before Jake mentions that, Jake also sent me a video to fully explain the Omnitrix, just because I was a little iffy on if I remembered all the rules. So the 3 main rules, as we mentioned, needs DNA. They need to be different from the host, which I assumed it was like, okay, so no human.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to have a general or a heightened intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't just transform into a squirrel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
But the fun part about the DNA that I also hated was it specified we can't use any mutants, we can't use any magical creatures, and we can't use pure energy beings.
I'm not sure. Maybe I broke the rule slightly, because here's the thing: you got transformations like Ghost Freak.
Not magical.
Yeah, it's not.
Not all ghosts are magical.
Mm-hmm.
Just the powerful ones are. So.
Yeah. So, I guess with that out of the way,
So, what are our 10 categories, Jake?
yeah. So our 10 categories that I picked out is basically we got someone that has to be the muscle. You know, your forearms, your humongosaur, all those different stuff. You got to have someone with at least one elemental power. So like your heat blasts, your big chills, swamp fire. Now you got to also have someone with a high intellect. So gray matter and brainstorm are great candidates for that. Now this one is a little bit interesting just because of my background. I wanted to pick someone that's more artistic, so anything having to do with painting or music, maybe even literature. I'm not sure if there are any aliens that I could think of that kind of specify that.
I'd say blocks.
I guess I could
Blocks.
see.
I could make the argument with some of the aliens that create physical constructs, like Diamond Head or Diamond Head, with his crystalline constructs.
Yeah, that could also work too. You gotta have one that's a feline transformation, so like Wildmutt, which like
Wildmutt's not feline.
he's he's a Vulpamancer, but like he acts like a dog.
Feline's cat.
Okay, anything that's animalistic.
Oh!
I maybe I should have specified that.
Okay. Well, that's going to make mine sound way more confusing.
That's okay. One spooky transformation, so Ghost Freak or
Honestly, I'd say Big Chill matches this category as well.
yeah, because he's got ghost type attributes. But any of like the Halloween type aliens like Frankenstrike and
Blitzwolfer.
yeah, Blitzwolfer. Now because I think Upgrade is a very interesting transformation for Ben, we gotta have one that's like tech associated. They could upgrade technology, they could work stuff with technology. This was actually the hardest one for me to pick out, but I think I picked a really good one for this one. One that's prehistoric. Dinosaurs. Could be dinosaurs, could also be...
Okay.
Dinosaurs, anything mythology-based.
As long as it's not magical.
Yeah. And then and then one that could time travel.
That one was the hardest one for me.
Yeah.
Because all of the time travelers I knew were human or human based.
Yeah, but I think I picked someone great for this one. So going in no in particular order.
Whoa, hold on! You left out the last one, number 10.
Oh yeah, right, right. I want to save that one for last, but you gotta
okay.
have someone that's all powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So Alien X.
Yep.
And
that one was my easiest.
Mm. That one, it was a little bit tricky for me to figure out because I had to fill other things in other categories, but I think I picked someone pretty cool for that one.
Yeah.
So, with that out of the way, Xavier, who is your muscle?
So for muscle, gonna be honest, this was the last one I had picked out. Less because I couldn't picture anything, but more because every fandom has their muscle. And quite fittingly, the last fandom I went to was Star Wars, where you could get such strong creatures like the Rancor or the Wampa, but those tend to have lower intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I had to pick something with a general intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something that lives longer.
Yeah.
Something that is known for ripping limbs off. Maybe something a little hairy. So I went with a Wookiee.
Of course you did, and you can make the call too. Alrighty.
I had to. I initially had Rancor on my list, and then I remembered the intelligence part. So
Yeah. So, I ended up picking quite a bit of creatures, a couple of which fit into the mythology category. But I had to pick someone for my muscle. And, like, I had a lot of options when it comes to muscle, but I wanted to save those options for other categories. So, I ended up picking out the Minotaur.
Ah. Oh, because that is... Oh, man.
Half bull, half man. Head of a bull, body of a man. Now, it's got, like, the human body attributes, but it's still an animal because it's a bull. It's got horns, its snout, and everything. But seeing as the Minotaur is closely tied to Greek mythology and, you know, the whole story of hiding in a maze and taking down different victims is a very convincing story, you know. Just takes one bull to get into to end somebody off.
Mm-hmm.
Except for that one guy that was able to beat the Minotaur, but
Yes. That was...
that's the only weakness.
Why can't I think of it? It was...
I should have rechecked the story.
I should have now. Theseus. That's
Ooh.
who it was.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read up on like Greek mythology, but I was thinking about it. It's just like because like the Minotaur wouldn't have been the first thing to come into my mind, and it wasn't. Oh, and it eats children.
Yeah, you didn't know that? All right. So that is our muscle.
All right.
And you may notice that we don't have pictures. That's more just because we don't want to have any copyright infringement go on to us because some of these come from very popular sources. So,
all right.
Sorry.
Xavier, who is your, I say feline, but who's your animalistic creature?
Okay. Well, I'm going to stick with the feline category because I thought you were looking for cat-like features.
Sorry.
No
worries.
worries.
I should have specified.
No worries. So, because I misunderstood the assignment, I went with a creature that has cat-like ears, tail, cat-like eyes. It's somewhat humanoid, but it is at least twice the size of a human. Actually, their young are taller than humans. They have 4 fingers instead of 5, although there are some with 5 and that's a interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
They also happen to have a great bond with nature,
Mm-hmm.
and cause the biggest debate on which Avatar are you talking about. I picked the Na'vi from Avatar.
Oh.
You know, the tall blue sky creatures. Because again, I read feline and I'm like, oh, something cat-like?
Mm-hmm.
Like Wrath? I should have known it was animal. But, you know, it's fine.
Well, if you were to pick an animal, who would you choose otherwise?
If I were to pick an animal, I don't know. Because I gotta think about what I haven't picked yet.
Mm-hmm. That's all right. So, animal was honestly the hardest one to pick out, because, like, again, I had a lot of options, but like I wanted to save those options for other categories. But I started rereading the Phantom Toll Booth again recently, and one of the main characters in that book was a perfect candidate for that animalistic feature, which I should have specified. It didn't just have to be feline. That's my fault.
Hey, no worries.
But I picked Talk the Watchdog. So for those of you that don't know, the main character Milo meets up with at some point Talk the Watchdog, who's literally a dog that has a pocket watch body, part dog, part watch.
Okay.
And basically his whole shtick is time, is, you know, keeping track of time. He's not a time traveler. He's not a time traveling dog, unfortunately, but he's still a good boy, and he makes sure that people are not wasting their time with anything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is it an awkward transformation? Probably, but hey, it's the thought that counts.
Yes. It is the thought that counts. All right, so we've gone through 2 transformations. Jake, what's our 3rd transformation going to be?
All right, let's go. Let's go with the prehistoric one.
Yeah. So I took the intelligence part to consideration for this one. Because, yes, dinosaurs have intelligence, but I didn't want to pick a dinosaur that may or may not have had that sort of sentient. More than just the drive of I need to survive. So that pretty much ruined prehistoric. I also didn't do mythology because a lot of mythological creatures happen to have magic ties. So with that being said, I ended up going into a poem written by Lewis Carroll for Alice Through the Looking Glass. And that poem is the Jabberwocky.
Ooh.
So I picked the Jabberwock. Now you may be thinking, isn't the Jabberwocky magical? No, not the original one. Though modern depictions of the Jabberwocky have it as magical, with the most prominent one being from Alice in Wonderland, being a creature more of just smoke and darkness, shooting magical lightning out of its mouth. It was originally never mentioned anything about magic. All of it was assumed, so that's what I'm going with it. Basically, it looks like a giant dragon with like catfish gills. And the actual words to describe it is it has jaws that bite and claws that catch. It's also a bigger transformation, but regardless, it also, with the whole prehistoric part, it is said to be an ancient beast. So
Alrighty.
that's what I got out of it.
So, this prehistoric one, again, had a lot of options to consider, but I figured the best place for prehistoric creatures was through looking to the good old book of mythologies and seeing which one would be the best fit for me, because I was trying to see what type of creatures in particular I didn't have yet. And I think this is the only reptile that I have, or reptile-like. I picked from Scottish mythology, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this right, but the Beether.
Can I see its name?
Yeah,
Bather.
Beether. Okay, that actually makes sense.
I actually don't know if that sounds right, but it sounds right to me. So
Yeah.
Bather.
Yeah, so according to Wikipedia, the Beether is described as the largest and most deadly kind of serpent, or as a dragon, but without certain typical, basically your European-style dragon. It dwells in mountainous caves and quarries, and is equipped with a venomous sting. If a person is stunned by a Beether, then they must head for the nearest body of water, such as a river or a loch. And it's also been described. So, the Scottish Gaelic word for Beether has been it's been defined as like a serpent, lightning, or thunderbolt.
Nice.
And I thought that sounded really cool. I wanted to pick something that was also a little bit water dwelling, and I technically do have another water dwelling creature in my list, but we will wait for that.
Yep.
So now, Xavier,
Yes.
who is your creature with the most intelligence?
Okay. This was the easiest one for me. So, as you know, intelligence, it was the key factor.
Mm-hmm.
You had to think of something that was very intelligent. But I also wanted to pick something that was very versatile, super strong, basically a Swiss Army knife of an alien.
Mm-hmm.
And I specifically went with aliens for most of these, with the exception of the Jabberwocky and one other creature. But for this one, and I had to go and make sure I can get this, because technically this creature is an amalgamation of DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But through extensive research and a little bit of help, I found out that the Omnitrix is able to scan this creature. I went with experiment 626. Stitch.
I didn't even think about that.
Because, like, everyone thinks of Stitch as this cute, lovable guy, super strong, 4 arms, which is the best amount of arms for an alien. But no one remembers the supercomputer side to him.
Mm-hmm.
He has his brain has the processing speed of a supercomputer. He's able to quickly learn tasks, which is how he's able to speak English fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's how he's able to learn the ukulele, learn about Elvis, all of those things. I think I may have mentioned something else. Oh, yeah, and solving complex problems easily.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. And Lilo and Stitch is like one of my favorite movies. So
Well, that was the first one I thought of, and I'm sitting here like, wait, hold on.
yeah,
Am I allowed to do that on Stitch?
I mean, it is an alien.
It is an alien. But again, it's because it's an experiment that combines DNA.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't think of if that works.
Ben has transformations that combine DNA.
Ben does, but then it's a question of, is it a mutant, is it a mutate, or is it its own separate thing?
I don't know.
It can work.
Ben 10's rule set, I'll admit, is a little bit unclear sometimes.
It works.
Yeah. So, I had someone else for my high intellect at first. I at first wanted to pick Metagross for my Pokemon category. Because, yeah, it's a Steel and Psychic type. It's very strong. I mean, it's a pseudo-legendary for crying out loud. But all of its dex entries talk about how it has the brain process of a supercomputer. Because it's like 2 Metang combined.
Mm-hmm.
But...
which is 4 Beldum combined.
Yeah, which is 4 Beldum combined. Unfortunately, though, I had a tough problem trying to pick something else for another category, so I had to pick the Pokemon category for something else. So I was scrambling trying to find what exactly was high intelligence, enough to like that high spectrum. And I think I know exactly what I knew exactly what I wanted to pick. So from the Final Fantasy series, I picked the Moogles.
Mm.
Just any Moogle. So the Moogles, for those that don't know, they first appeared in Final Fantasy 3. They've appeared in every other game since. But essentially, they're white teddy bears with pink pom-poms on their heads. And they are very high in intelligence. And they make their own weapons and gadgets. They even have their own internet messaging system called the Magnet, which is super cool. And some of them are even party members, too. I know in Final Fantasy VI there's Mog the Moogle, who's more of a dancer archetype. But they're all very intelligent. They even have their own language, where they speak in Kupo. But yeah, I picked the Moogles. There was other Final Fantasy creatures I was considering, but Moogles I think are the best option. They're kind of like the Chocobos. They're kind of the mascots for the series.
Yep. You know, now I think about it, that animal category, I could have done a Pokemon. I did not pick any Pokemon.
You didn't pick any Pokemon for your...
No, because I'm sitting here like, well, it's like a hit or miss on if certain Pokemon work, and I don't want to have to go through all 1,000, however many Pokemon there are now.
Yeah, but a lot of Pokemon are very intelligent.
A lot of them are.
And plus, tons of ghost types.
I know. I still think I picked a good one for spooky, creepy.
Yeah, well, I guess if we're segueing into spooky, creepy, who's your spooky guy?
Okay. So, this is for a highly intelligent set of nerds. Because this is one of the only times where I will pick from a game. It's not a video game, though. It is an it is a board game. A lot of people may be familiar with it. It's nothing big. It's just small Dungeons and Dragons. I picked the Ithalid, which are the Mind Flayers from Dungeons and Dragons. Now I know what you're thinking. Aren't the Mind Flayers magical? Mind Flayers themselves might be, but that's why I specified with the Ithalid, because the Ithalid race itself isn't purely magical, or isn't magical at all, until they get to a certain capacity. Hence why I was able to do that. I chose them partially because of their look, because in my opinion, they look like a miniature Cthulhu. They've got tentacles in the face.
Ooh.
As well, they have certain mental abilities, such as telepathy, psionic blasts, and levitation. They use the tentacles on their face to grapple and devour brains. I feel like this would be the perfect match for a creepy category that doesn't involve magic. And a lot of creepy things that I tried to put in here involve magic. Like Zool from the Ghostbusters and Pennywise from the Stephen King books. So, Mind Flayers work too. I also did try to use the Mind Flayer for Stranger Things, but because there's no discernible DNA, I wasn't able to.
Okay. So this one was one of my easier ones to pick out, because I kind of knew what I wanted right away. But I also had other options to consider too. So I wanted to pick something from Irish mythology, because for those of you that don't know, I've grown up with Irish culture. I am part Irish, and I know a lot of things when it comes to Irish music, Irish folklore. And I remember watching the movie Darby O'Gill and the Little People which was it was produced by Disney. It wasn't made by Disney, but it was produced by them. But there for those that have not watched the movie, there's a scene, actually a couple of scenes, where a certain creature comes out to take people from the dead into the afterlife. Kind of like a Grim Reaper. But this is not the Grim Reaper. It is the Banshee from Irish folklore. So...
Oh, the Banshee?
Yeah. So, Banshees, for those that don't know, they are described as a female spirit who heralds the death of a family, usually by screaming, wailing, shrieking, or keening. And I figured, like, of all the ghost archetypes, this is probably one of the most creepiest ones of them all, just by their appearance alone, but also just for the wailing and the screaming thing, too. But yeah, the Banshee.
Mm-hmm. All right. What is our next category? Because we're slowly getting to the ones where I was deeply frustrated with looking for.
Let's pick the one with elemental powers.
Elemental powers was the last one I did. Well, second to last. Because muscle was last.
Mm-hmm.
But elemental was my second to last because I wanted to go above and beyond. I didn't just want one element. I wanted all of them. And I ended up going with a character from DC, which ended up switching who my muscle was. Because originally my muscle was going to be a Martian from DC. Because those Martians can go toe-to-toe with Kryptonians, Amazonians, and New Gods. But there is a character from the DC Comics who is all about elements, and although started out as a human because of a certain situation, ended up becoming a creature much more. And again, went through everything, was like, okay, does it match this, or this? It matched all of our parameters. So I'm going with Metamorpho. There isn't necessarily a race for that, so I'm specifying just Metamorpho. So Metamorpho is considered a human mutate, which can work with the Omnitrix. The physiology is different enough from a human where you can shift from, again, human to that creature. Now, Metamorpho's entire premise is he can shift his body into different elements. So, if you need wood, he's got it. You need water, he's got it. You need acid. He can shift his body into different chemical elements to create acid, as shown in the Superman movie from last year. As well, he can create sunlight and kryptonite. Basically, he is a multi-tool of elements. So
almost kind of sounds like a Green Lantern, or just a lantern in general.
No, because lanterns deal with constructs, not elements.
Alrighty. Now, for my elemental power, I took to the vast... Well, again, Pokemon was one of my first thoughts, because Pokemon is all about the elements, you know? At least for most of them. But, again, I wanted to say Pokemon for something else. So I ended up going to Lego, one of the Lego franchises, and one of the original concepts, or the first one to really explore characters with elemental powers, is Bionicle. So I ended up picking Leiwa, the Toa of Jungle, from Bionicle. So for those of you that don't know, Bionicle initially had like 6 Toa, having like 6 different elements, with fire and earth and water, ice, all that different stuff. I picked Leiwa specifically because I love nature, I love the forest, and getting the opportunity to manipulate the forces of nature through the trees and the vines is a really cool concept. And plus, Leiwa's got all the different abilities that allows him to traverse the jungle very well. And plus, he's green. I love the color green.
Nice. All right. So we've got artistic left, tech, gadget, time travel, and all powerful.
Let's do our artistic one.
Cool. This one was another one that I silently cursed Jake out from my basement. Because trying to come up with alien races that were artistic, it was there were some, but it's like most of them were either beings of energy, or you have to get to a certain form where they wouldn't be considered scannable by the Omnitrix, which sucked because I really wanted to pick these creatures from the book The Speaker of the Dead, which is a part of the Ender's Game series. But instead, I picked something from Star Trek. And that is the Capharians. Barely anyone knows what the Capharians are because they're not really a big race in Star Trek. But they are a race of insectoid beings who are more peaceful and friendly natured. Now, before you sit here and say, why would you pick that for your Omnitrix? I'm just going to point out, the Omnitrix is not meant as a weapon. It was meant as a learning tool.
Yeah.
So, you have to have a peaceful race in there somewhere. That's what Cannibal was there for, before Ben weaponized him. That's the truth.
Yeah, I know that's
Ben
the truth.
weaponized him. So anyway, the Capharians, the artistic side comes from their large contribution to the performing arts, which I guess if you were to weaponize them, you could treat that as like a mimicry or an acrobatics. As well, they are known as a race of adaptive builders, utilizing a lot of recycled materials to build their own homes. So they're resourceful. That took 4 hours to come up with.
That took 4 hours?
That took 4 hours, Jake.
I'm sorry.
Well, I didn't know what you meant by artistic. I'm like the colorful? Is it you make art? I tried going with the musical races, but the ones that kept coming up were like the Bith from Star Wars, and Star Wars was kind of my trump card. It's like I can pick something from anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, I had a hard time picking the artistic one too. Again, Pokemon was my first option in terms of music creatures, but then I was just like, again, I had to pick it for something else. But I took to look into a different video game franchise, the Zelda series, because Zelda is all about the music. And one of my favorite games is Majora's Mask. And the best part of Majora's Mask is getting to transform into 3 different races. And all of them have a musical instrument. But I picked the Zora transformation from Majora's Mask, which is basically Macau, the Zora. And so the thing about Macau, I mean, for the Zora transformation, he does normal fish-like things, because, like, he could travel on land and water. But, like, he can use his fins as shields, you know. He has an electric shield that he uses. He can swim super fast, you know. All that great stuff. But that's not the reason why I picked him, though. Because while all the transformations, like the Goron and the Deku, have their musical instruments, the Zora transformation is one that is specifically from an actual band in the game. And you play a song with them at some point. Because Macau is the guitarist in that band, and his guitar is literally a fish skeleton. Now, the songs themselves that you play could potentially inhibit magical powers, but the magic doesn't come from the instrument itself, it comes from the songs that you play. When you play normal music, it's just music, which is still a good thing. But I feel like with all of those, I felt like Mikal was the one that I was close to picking the Goron too as my muscle, but I was just like, no, I gotta save something for the musical. And I feel like the Zora is probably one of my favorite species for the fact that they could travel on land and water. I mean, they're slow walkers on land and they're faster in water, but they can still breathe air.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
You always need something that can breathe underwater or in the air.
Okay. So, who is your tech gadget?
All right. So this one was a blast from the past for me. Because I could have picked so many. But I went with just a little dude. From a slightly known film. Highly underrated. Called Earth to Echo. I picked Echo from Earth to Echo.
Ooh.
Now, basically, think of the android robot. You know which one I'm talking about, the green one. Small guy. Imagine he were completely chrome and had a body shaped more like Eve from Wall-E.
Ooh.
That is Echo. Now, I picked him for technology because of his technological feats. So for the entire duration of the film, he was weakened. He was hurt. And he never really got up to his full power. During this state, he was able to hack into the kids' phones to utilize his hearing, communication, and eyesight. He was able to turn on an abandoned amusement park. Or not an amusement park. Arcade. He was able to turn on an abandoned arcade to get what he wanted.
Ooh.
Shift music in the jukebox. Manipulate technological metallic things so that he can get what he needs for his ship to heal him up. And locate different pieces of technology. That wasn't the main thing that I picked. The main thing I picked was later on in the movie when he was closer to full health without actually being at full health. While the kids were running away from the authorities, one of them was driving towards them. Keep in mind, you got an adult in a big truck driving towards a bunch of kids on a bicycle. Surely that wouldn't work. What Echo did was he lifted the truck, tore it apart piece by piece, had it floating above, and put it back together exactly as it is, setting it back on the ground, and having the truck still function as a truck in a matter of seconds. Oh, and plus he's got like a giant spaceship that's pretty cool. And can communicate from anywhere in the galaxy.
That's a pretty OP robot.
It is a pretty OP robot. It's just a tiny guy.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I also picked a tiny guy. I didn't think of Wall-E for like technological guys, which I could have easily picked any of them, probably Eve. But I ended up not picking that because this was the hardest one for me to pick out because I couldn't think of any options from the franchises that I know because the thing is, I wanted to try and pick something that was like Upgrade, because Upgrade is a very, very unique alien in the fact that he enhances technology.
You know what you could have picked? Venom.
Well,
Venom was my second choice, but it's like, I'll say Venom in case.
You know what? I ended up picking somebody else, and I'm glad I picked him because this is where the Pokemon spot was for. Because I picked a Pokemon that's not one of my favorites, but I felt like he was the best option in terms of what I was looking for.
Rotom?
Yeah. Because Rotom in his base form is just an electric and ghost type. And he's great on his own. Typically described as a pretty crafty creature. Also, some Pokemon guidebooks labeled him as a legendary Pokemon. He's not.
Mm.
But the main thing that he is known for, though, are the appliance abilities. Where, like, you got Rotom Heat, Fire and Electric, Rotom Wash, Water and Electric, Rotom Freeze, Electric and Ice, Rotom Mower, which is like electric and grass. Rotom Fan is electric flying.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. I think that's all the appliances. But like those are just the 5 appliances, though. Imagine, because like he's able to get into any technology. Because as we've seen from Gen 7 going forward, there's Rotom Pokédexes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's just Rotom phones now, which, you know, is also a Pokedex, which is kind of lame, but, like, you know, still, though. Like, he can hack into your car. He can hack into all kinds of different vehicles. He can hack into your phone. I mean, there's an episode of where he's going around... there's an episode of the anime, Sun and Moon anime, where like he's out of the Pokedex and he's trying to get back, and he ends up hacking the Pokemon Center. And when I say the Pokemon Center, I mean the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
Was just Rotom. It was hilarious. So yeah, I picked Rotom, and I'm happy with the choice. All right. Who's your time traveler?
So, if Elemental was the last one I truly picked, Time Travel was the hardest one. I spent 2 days thinking about time travel. I may or may not have solved time travel. The answer, weirdly enough, egg yolks. Whatever. Anyway, so for time travel, the biggest problem is we tend to think of time travel more with beings that are human looking. So like Time Lords from Doctor Who. Of course I can't pick a Time Lord because they're human. Mm-hmm. Or human looking.
And there are devices that time travel too.
There are devices. And I didn't find this out until after I picked my creature. Could have gone with the spaceship from Flight of the Navigator because it is a sentient spaceship. But I didn't do that. And I kind of wish I did.
I mean, you can still pick it if you want to.
Yeah, but I spent so much time finding this. Plus, the other big thing was I looked at my list and realized 90%, or not 90%, but a majority of what I had was still bipedal. And semi-humanoid. Not to a point where you can mistake them for human, but still like 2 legs. So I wanted to find something that looked unique. And boy, did I find something. It was in one comic book. Specifically an issue of Transformers. It is not a Transformer, by the way. It is a race that is potato-shaped, with webbed feet, 2 small arms, and 7 eyes.
Idaho.
Jake, that's not an appropriate thing to say on the computer. I know we're gonna talk about how you view yourself after we finish recording, but that is not okay to say. Forgive him. Anyway, so it is in one issue where it talks to the Dinobots, and its distinct characteristics is it can fly in a flying saucer, and it time travels. It is called a Quagar. There isn't really much else I can say other than the name was referenced in a TV show called Red Dwarf. That was a pretty funny episode too. I highly recommend watching Red Dwarf. It's a good show. I think it's on BritBox.
Huh.
Yep. All right. So who'd you pick? Because I would have assumed you saved Pokemon for this one and done Dialga or Celebi.
I was thinking of Celebi for doing this one, and I was going to pick it at first, but then, again, Tech Jacket was, like, the hardest one for me to pick out, because I was just like, damn, I can't find anyone that fits in that spectrum, and Rotom was my lucky option, and it made some of the other options harder to pick out, and Time Travel was already one I was having a bit of problems picking one, but I think I picked someone. And it is from a gaming franchise.
Ratchet and Clank?
No.
I was going to say, because there was a creature from Ratchet and Clank that I was going to use, but then I went through all the parameters, and it's like, nope, can't use them.
Yeah.
No DNA.
Well, this person certainly has DNA. And chili dogs. He has chili dogs.
Sonic?
Yeah.
Oh. Sonic can time travel?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. So, Sonic is basically your equivalent of a speedster. So, pretty much the Flash, you know, like, in terms of his abilities, you know, his main one is, of course, he could travel super fast, you know, which, you know, it isn't time travel specifically, but getting from one point to another, you know, that is no joke. But he has all other forms of running fast, you know. He has, like, the boost, which allows him to, like, knock past, like, certain enemies. He's got, like, the elemental shields. And he has the spin dash, too. But I picked him because in some games, and I'm primarily talking about Sonic CD, he can time travel.
Okay.
He travels so fast to where he could travel to both the past and the future. Because for those of you that have not played Sonic CD, you start your level in the present version, but you get to certain points where in order to travel to a certain, in order to go to the past, future, and future, because like the present, there's a good future and a bad future, essentially. And it's based on, like, your actions that you do in the game. But there's a way, the only way to do it is to travel so fast in a constant speed to the point, it's basically the, shoot, I'm forgetting the name of it for the Flash.
The Speed Force?
Yeah, the Speed Force. It's essentially the Speed Force. I'm not sure if it's as complex as the Speed Force is, but in terms of getting to the past or the future, it does that. But also, in other games too, you know, he's able to, like, speed up and slow down time too, you know. And while that isn't time travel specifically, it's time manipulation. And, like, and if Ninjago has taught me anything, is that the 4 time blades, which is forward and slow-mo, pause, and, shoot, I'm forgetting the, reverse. You get all 4 of them, you're able to time travel.
So I could have picked a speedster that could run through time.
Yeah, because Sonic isn't human.
Are you aware of how much time that could have saved me?
I wanted to give you free reigns, you know that, right?
Okay. Well, we're down to our last category. Our 10th alien. The all-powerful. The omnipotent.
The Alien X.
And I'm just going to say, this one was by far my easiest choice. And I wasn't initially going to keep him here. Because I'm sitting here like, surely, as I'm researching these other categories, I'm going to find another race equally as powerful. And I didn't. This being comes from the Marvel comics. They are somewhat known. They have been in a couple episodes of TV shows such as Avengers Assemble, He was in Hulks and the Agents of Smash. Pretty sure he was in an episode of Ultimate Spider-Man. And I wouldn't be shocked if he was on Superhero Squad. So the race itself is the Pop-Upians, which is the alien race for a creature called the Impossible Man. Now, the Impossible Man holds a lot of reality-altering powers and molecular alterations that they can use on themselves or others. Unfortunately, they can't break the fourth wall that I'm aware of. But, we will work around that. They also tend to be depicted with some aspects of Toon Force, which, by the way, found out Toon Force cannot be scanned by the Omnitrix. Or else Bugs Bunny would be somewhere on here. But regardless, because it's not specifically Toon Force, I was able to use the Impossible Man's Pop-Upian DNA. So, yeah. Oh, also something along the lines of he can regenerate from tiny little bit of DNA. Really quickly.
So, this was one I had to easily pick out, and I'm not even sure if this transformation qualifies, but I spent so much time picking all the other stuff that I just had to pick them. So this one is from Chinese mythology. And a book that I still want to read is the main character of that book. And it's from Journey to the West. It is Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. Because he is immortal. And he also has a bunch of different abilities that allow him to manipulate the elements, transform into all sorts of different weapons. He's highly intelligent. I'm trying to think about his other abilities too, because he has about 72 transformations. He has a cloud that he rides on. His hair specifically is what allows him to transform into all these different clones and weapons. He's got fiery eyes to see through a demon or disguises or illusions. And then he also has the staff. And he also has quadruple immortality, super strength, and invulnerability.
Nice.
And I still want to get to Journey into the West because he's, such a big inspiration for, like, Goku from Dragon Ball, Infernape from the Pokemon series, and probably some other ones that I'm not thinking off the top of my head right now. But regardless, though, I had to pick Sun Wukong. And there are immortals in all the other franchises that I could have picked. I could have picked a Pokemon. I could have picked Arceus. I could have picked God.
So the funny thing is, I was debating on Arceus, but I'm sitting here like, no, because Arceus is kind of a cop-out. We'll see what else we could do. But, from the sounds of it, that's our Omnitrix. They may not be the best. I'm going to blame Jake for it. But
hey, having 10 options is fun. Ben started with 10 aliens, and not all of them weren't certainly the best.
No. But the best part about it is we didn't double dip. Well, I think did we do the same franchises?
I didn't pick it. I was going to pick something from Marvel because I was debating on picking a Goose for my animal.
Yeah. I don't think we picked any from the same universes.
No, and I picked a lot more mythologies.
You did pick a lot more mythologies, but I also stayed away from mythologies because the line between magical and non-magical is so thin. But regardless, there's our Omnitrixes. And I feel like that concludes our episode.
Yeah.
So next week is my episode. We'll see what happens depending on scheduling. It may be an episode that we recorded earlier on that we can now get our guest host for. Or it might be a brand new episode to come up with. And we may have to wait another 2 weeks for that one. But with that being said, I'm Xavier Dean.
And I'm Jacob Green.
Wishing you a wonderful night. Stay safe. stay chill out there. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about the temperature, so I'm just gonna say stay chill, stay cool. Just relax. Again, it might be stressful, especially for you students going back into school.
Mm-hmm.
And above all else, have a wonderful week.